this is okay in terms of the audio balancing. Are you ready?
That was a long one.
It was.
I got you. Wait.
Okay.
Let me see if I can do it with this. It's not coffee. It's this late.
I can barely hear it.
I'm trying.
Welcome back, everyone. We're on episode 3 of the Digging Deep podcast by popular demand. Mark is here again. Say hi, Mark.
Yellow.
So usually the last 2 weeks, we had kind of a set list of topics to chat about. This week, to be honest, I wasn't expecting so many people to ask questions, but it just happens to be that, you know, our community is very large and they care a lot about what me and Mark have to say about, you know, certain aspects of volleyball. Thank you.
Very interactive. Like, you guys are messaging each other at like ungodly hours.
That is true. To be fair, we're also up at the ungodly hours of the night, so
We're part of the problem.
we are part of the problem. But for today, we're just going to be answering questions from the community. So that's kind of the
Can
the
I do it?
vibe.
Can you do the first one?
Of course, yeah. So
Am I allowed to?
yeah, this first question is not like it was not sent with proper grammar. I don't know if it was done on purpose or
That's the point.
what's the point. Can you read it out for us?
I got you. Ready?
Yeah.
This comes from Austin. Why sometimes I set the ball. Why are you laughing? Why sometimes I set the ball to outside hitter, but they not hit good and make ball into net.
He's basically eating his mic as he's reading this question. I don't know why, because it
Nom,
sounds like
nom.
it sounds like you're projecting a little bit, which is crazy because you're not a setter. So
Hey, wait, is this directed to me?
yeah, no.
Why sometimes
I think he's just asking like the general consensus. I think it depends on where you're setting the ball from. I can't hit an airmail. Like if you airmail it to me in power, I'm there. Like there was like a 90% chance it's going into the net.
there's a lot of things that could like happen that can cause that. If we're actually are we actually answering the question now?
I think it was sarcasm. I think he understands why some people can't hit it over, but we can quickly dive into it. Ha, get it?
I think this like to take it seriously. I think that you as a setter, like especially when you're setting out a system, you kind of have like no choice but just to put it as close to the net as you can, unless you're like an amazing setter. Like obviously you're gonna try your best to just like get the ball like close to the net. As a hitter, I think your responsibility is to just get the ball over if it's like a really hard set. Um, and you know take more of an angle, especially if it's coming like from deep in the court. So yeah, I think again volleyball is a team sport, so you got to work together to get the ball back over, right?
I will say, there was a coach that I went to a setting clinic with, and he was trying to teach me how to set out a system. And I remember he was saying, like, oh, you got to push it high and push it to pin if it's out of system. Later on, I learned it's actually much better just to put it nice and high anywhere on the court. And someone, surely someone will hit the ball over for you. I think it's more
You
risky to push it nice and high into the pin because you risk having the set be way too tight, or you just risk like hitting the pin. So now, whenever I hit like or I set an out of system, I just put it up nice and high, and usually someone either in the back row will hit it or someone will just bump it over or something like that. Now, if you're talking about like a regular set to power, this is the problem that I see with a lot of powers. They're so excited to hit the set because it might be a really nice like high ball that they either mess up their timing or they swing it into the net because they're too excited.
That they make ball into net.
They make ball into net, as one would say. Not your
They not
fault.
hit good.
Not your fault. Just communicate with your hitter. That's all I can really say about that. Next question.
Next question. This is from Fiennes. why does Jess love hating on me? Wait, can we give some people like backstory on like why what kind of things is he are you hating on?
Yo, some would arguably say I'm his biggest hater, which is so untrue. Like, I know I joke around about it a lot, but um I don't hate anyone in the community. Hate is a very strong word. I don't dislike anyone in the community. I, appreciate every single person in the Tsunami volleyball group. Um I can see how it would be interpreted by hate because I see so much potential for him. And it's just like I'm watching him play and it's just like I'm like, yo, like you can play so much better because you might be not the tallest person, but you have a lot of athletic skill and ability. And I think that you could really turn that into something quite valuable. Um, I think I criticize him a lot just simply because I can see that like he has the potential to do better. But he's making a mistake that I see in a lot of players who are just learning the sport, which is running before you can walk.
Yeah.
Like a
Like
good example of that, Fiennes doesn't do this, but a good example of this is jump serving before you're even able to overhand serve consistently.
yeah.
That's a good
I don't
one.
even jump serve like that
That's
much
not
because I
true.
know I'm not that good.
That's not true.
I jump float. That's something I've been doing since high school, but like for a while, I think for the past like year, I've just been like standing serve because it's
Hmm.
so like what do you call it, like bulletproof
Hmm.
if you get the ball over the net. But it's like
When
it's
it's good.
bulletproof. When it's good, it's okay. And when it's
Yeah.
bad, it's
Yeah.
still not that bad.
I don't know if Mark necessarily agrees with me. I'm sure he does to some extent, but I really believe in being consistent at like the very basic fundamentals of volleyball before you try to do anything cooler. Um, I I like it irks me so much when I see people trying to run quicks and trying to run shoots when they can't even run like a regular four ball. Do you know what I mean? Or, for example, I had a chat with Vance and I told him because he sent me a video of him setting and he was like, "Oh, look at this back row set," and I'm like, "That's great and all, but can you consistently set to power? Or can you consistently set a meter or a right side?" Right? Until you figure that out, that's when you move on and try to set back row. It's just
So
running
you
before
hate
you
on
can
them.
walk. I don't hate him. No, I think he's a very nice guy. He's gotten a lot better at volleyball since we first met him too. So I'm glad that he's progressing. I just want to see him progress in the right way, or in the like taking the right steps to progress instead of skipping steps and trying to like fight the final boss. You know what I mean?
So you hate on the people that you see the most potential in.
That's not true. I don't hate anyone.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Fair enough. Do you want to move on?
Yeah, okay. This is a good question as well from Zach. I'm gonna read this because I don't know if I can necessarily answer this. But the question is, as a blocker, if the ball is hit through my hands and hits my head, is that a double, or does that ball hitting my head count as a first touch?
All right, I got you. So, there's two places where you can find this specifically, and I think it's actually pretty clear. So, in the Volleyball Canada, which is what OVA follows, this is the rule book that you can find online. Um, Rule 14.2, block contact. It states consecutive, quick, and continuous contacts with the ball may occur by one or more blockers, provided that the contacts are made during one action. So, for example, if you go for a block, as long as your hands are above the net, it's considered a block. And if it hits one hand, then the other hand, then your head, and then the other hand, and it finally ends up bouncing away, it still counts as a single touch because that whole all those bounces are a part of one action. Does that make sense?
I can't really answer that because I barely get any block touches, much less get a ball bounced on my head.
Oh well, I mean, yeah. It might seem a little bit confusing because sometimes I guess for it's not really that clear when you're first coming to volleyball. Like, oh, it touched like both hands or one hand and then the other. Like, does that count as two? And then it only counts as one because it's only one action. A lot of actions made or done within the first like touch is usually just because it's one action, it just counts as one touch. But specifically the block, because it's a block touch, meaning that it doesn't count as the 3 consecutive touches on your team. Um, yeah, it's just one. It's considered a block touch.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say you described it pretty well. It's pretty like cut and dry. It's just like if it doesn't look like the blocker is very obviously trying to have it touch more than one person of his body, and it just looks like something he can't control because that's just what the ball is doing, then it's one touch. That's how I interpret it as.
It's yeah, quick and continuous. I could also state in the F5EB rulebook. This is rule 9.2.3.1. I had
Not the
this. I had this
receipts.
screenshot. Um, this at blocking, consecutive contacts may be made by one or more players, provided that the contacts occur during one action.
Yeah, yeah. I hope that helps a little bit.
I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of a rule book, to make it clear, to clarify.
This is also from Zach, but he's also asking if you could go back to when you first started volleyball, what advice would you give your newbie self?
Dude, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I started volleyball when I was in elementary school. I think it was like grade. You start sports in grade 4, so I started in grade 4. Um, to me, it was just a sport. Like I did a bunch of sports in elementary school, so I don't know. I didn't really care much for it. I didn't really focus on it too much. Like at the time, it was more so just like trying to get the ball over and like trying to continue um the game as long as you can. It was like literally the most basic volleyball game that you can have is just trying to get the ball over. When I got into high school, my coach, um, she was a really good coach, and she taught us a lot. Um, and I think one of the things that I would probably tell myself as a newbie is to, I don't know. I think I pretty much got like a good understanding of the sport like when I was being taught by her. Like she was very thorough with everything that we learned. She made it a point that like passing was extremely important. She also made it a point that chemistry was extremely important. Not getting I think everybody on our team was very cohesive. Like we made sure that we were picking people up on our team whenever you messed up a point. Like whatever, you just move on to the next one. We lose as a team, you win as a team. So um I honestly just, if I were to give my newbie self advice, I just say try harder. Or maybe not get so like discouraged um whenever I messed up. I feel like I'm very critical on myself, so um I think like I still to this day like I'm learning how to play the sport better. So I think when I was younger, it was like, you're still learning, you might not be as good, so you beat yourself up, but there's always going to be another point that you can play.
Yeah.
What about you?
So I was not athletically gifted when I was little. It was kind of something that I had to like develop or work on my own. I was a fat kid when I was little. I was
Don't call yourself that.
or I wasn't very athletic when I was little. Just because like my parents focused more on like during my upbringing they focused more on intellectual factors. So I was a very like book smart kid when I was little. As I grew up, that kind of just went out the window. But
I
um,
think you're still pretty smart.
oh, thanks. So the first time I played volleyball was actually in middle school. I tried out for my elementary school team, but I'm pretty sure my gym teacher like hated my guts because he didn't even like acknowledge me during the tryouts. He didn't like say anything to me. He didn't even like ask me what my name was. I think it was kind of sad, but I was a brat. But anyways, when I was I think 14, I was in grade 8. My dad and my mom and dad they put me in a Pac-Man house league. It was like a developmental clinic.
So where every volleyball player in the West End starts.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like.
This was way back in the day. This was when Pac-Man was operating out of a school instead of their facility. So I remember the house league was actually really fun. They taught me how to overhand serve. They taught me how to like down ball. And they taught me kind of like the fundamentals of like 4-2 and stuff. So
How's your overhand now?
when it's good, it's absolutely amazing. But when it's bad, it's not even gonna hit the net. It's just gonna go under the net.
Yeah,
um,
that's why I asked.
I was actually more consistent with my overhands when I was younger than I am now. It's very embarrassing.
Oh, really?
Yes, because 95% of my overhands went over when I was younger.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, my parents put me in a house league. It was like a developmental league, and that's where I learned how to play power for the first time. My team won the house league, so I actually have a Pac-Man gold medal in my house somewhere.
You should find it and walk to one of our drop-ins with
It's an
on.
old medal. It's back when the logo for Pac-Man was actually like Pac-Man.
I remember
Yeah.
that. I remember seeing people on like high school teams like we would
Mhm.
face some of the really good players.
Yeah.
With the old Pac.
If you have an old Pac-Man shirt like from the OG days, like you know it's crazy. My mom wears an old Pac-Man shirt sometimes around the house where when we go out and people will look at her and I'm like shaking my head like no, it's not what you think it is.
Yeah, she's cracked.
Yeah, so after that, that was kind of it. Like my parents never really put me through any more training. And I think that's a really big regret of mine. I really wish my parents pushed a little more in terms of like my athletic um, career, if you will. Like I wish they put me through more volleyball. Because now, like I really enjoy the sport, but I wish that a lot of the techniques that I have to force myself to learn now, I wish I learned when I was younger. Because now I've developed like a lot of bad habits, and it's a lot harder to fix because I'm an adult. So
Yeah, that's fair.
like I think when I was younger, I just didn't really push for it because I was more focused on getting good grades and all that kind of whatnot. And I had a lot of extracurriculars going on at the time too. But I think if I could go back, I would definitely tell my parents like, can you please push me to like do more volleyball? Because older me wishes you did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, very
Um,
wholesome. Or
Stay in school.
yeah, stay in school. Like don't drop out of school just to become an athlete. But yeah, or I wish my parents knew 9-man so they could put me through like a 9-man training arc when I was younger too.
I feel like if you did 9-man when you were younger, you would probably be much better than I was. Cause I mean, like, I didn't really have, my family didn't really have that much money. So like, when I was younger, so I, I would have to pay for my own athletic fees, and I did a bunch of different sports, and then like music on top, which is crazy expensive. So like that's really all I can do. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not to like insinuate anything, but if I were to ever have kids and they went up to me and they were like, I want to try this sport or like I want to do this or that, like I always want to be able to have like the resources to support them. Yo, PSA, when my kid, if you're listening to this like in like 10-20 years, when you come out of the womb, you're being put through volleyball training. Sorry.
this kid is gonna be traumatized. Anyways, should we move on to the next one?
All right. What's the next question here? It's from Chris.
This is Chris. Yeah. So, what are your favorite moments in volleyball? I think we've talked about
We
this.
kind of, yeah, we skimmed over it in our first podcast.
Yeah. You want to hear something funny? I did actually. You were there, but this is more for the viewers than for us. So We went to a run, and I was going for a dive, and like it was out of the court. Like I was just trying to save it, and I was pretty much like sideways, close to the floor. And I was like, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this. I hit the ball with one arm,
Yeah, he
trying to get
touched
the
it.
ball back into
Oh
the
yeah.
court. This is where it gets ridiculous. So I was like, yes, I got it, and I'm like on the floor, like ready to get back up. Next thing you know, I get six packed right in the face. But I did it to myself.
The
I
ball
I
like bounced against the wall and then bonked you right back on the head.
No, not on the wall. It was I like whipped the ball to get it back into the court, but I only whipped it to the like the volleyball pole,
Yeah. I gotta
and
find it.
it came right back at my face.
I have to find the clip, but it was really funny.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that's like a favorite moment. It's just something funny that happened recently.
Yeah, well, I feel like favorite moments are very. Oh, I guess I could talk about like volleyball wins.
You could.
Like, um, I won the volleyball league in my university, the intramural volleyball
Oh
league.
yeah, but you already went over that story.
I don't think I talked about the league. I think I talked about the
Intramurals?
no the tournaments. I've talked about like the tournament wins, right? Like had no idea that we won, but we won.
Yeah, you talked about that. You talked
There's that
about
one.
you did go over like all the times you've won like leagues and tournaments and stuff like that.
It's a pretty good feeling. Um,
I have a good
yeah.
moment. So, a little bit into the lore behind me and Mark, but we went to our first tournament together. I forget where it was. It was in, I think it was in Mississauga, and I remember that me and Mark were like just getting to know each other. I think at that point, and we both dove to save a ball. That was pretty fun. I thought that was a really good moment. That was like a oh wow, you're good at volleyball. You're also good at volleyball. Heck yeah. That was a
Yeah.
cool moment because we got the point after that. Mind you, not on our mistakes, or not on the, like we didn't. I don't think we deserved the point because it was on the other team's mistake. But it was nice, like hustling. It seems like that's
Yeah.
usually the case between me and him. So
I think like if we're talking about like me and you, there are like a bunch of moments where it's like you'll get my block follow or um it feels good to be supported in that way and covered. That I think playing with you is a lot of fun.
oh, that was so
Yeah,
wholesome.
a little bit of
Okay,
yeah.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Do we want to go to the next one then?
Yes. Chris is also asking about his form and the best way to forearm pass.
Yo, how's this form? How's this form in what? There's so many like different techniques in.
There
in
is a lot of
volleyball.
different techniques. Yeah. You know what, Chris? I think when you lock in, if you're listening to this, you're probably gonna listen to this, but I think when you lock in, you're actually like a pretty solid player. But oh my gosh, I watch you play in drop-ins sometimes, and I'm just like, what is he doing?
But it's drop-ins.
It is a
like-
drop-in, yeah. But I think your form is fine. I think you know exactly what you need to work on and what you need to do to.
Does he?
I would hope so.
Yeah, I think he does.
He's a tsunami host. I would hope so.
I think it's just like, uh, I'll be honest. Like serve receive is a hard aspect of the game. Even though you like, it might seem like you should be really, really, really good at it. Like sometimes you just, because I do this a lot. Like I'll come into like the first few games of a drop in and I'll completely shank everything, or the ball will, or I'll give it like an overpass. And then I realize how like lazy I'm being. I think the one thing that I can say for Chris is just to get like more under the ball.
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
he I know when he like gets there and he actually like gets under the ball properly. Like
a
I
good
know he
pass.
can make the pass, but I don't know. I think in drop-ins, like even for me, like I'll just get hella lazy and
Yeah.
just
It's just a matter of being like more on top of it and less lazy. I think one thing I've noticed about Chris is he likes to, whenever it's a hard hit and he bumps it, he'll swipe his arm either to the left or to the right. And then
What do you mean?
he Chris, if you're listening to this, one thing I noticed that you don't do is you don't drop your shoulder when you dig. His arms are very flat. He doesn't drop a shoulder, so then the ball ends up swiping off
Oh,
his
that's what
arm
you mean.
and off
That's what
into
you mean.
the either it swipes off and goes out, or it goes off his like arm and hits the curtain or whatever. So I think maybe dropping your shoulder might help a little bit. Getting a little lower as well. Also, when you're passing free balls, you don't use your legs. It's very lazy form. But I'm sure I think he knows. I think he knows.
I think next time you should consider using T-Rex form. So
T-Rex form is superior.
always.
When you think you're about to lift the ball, just T-Rex.
Exactly. Okay, then
Okay.
we move on.
Next question. This is a good one. So this is from Brandon. Brandon is currently helping us mod our WhatsApp. God bless his soul.
God bless his soul.
Thank you, Brandon, for doing that, because sometimes me and Mark are busy, with our own lives and stuff. So yeah, kudos to you, Brandon, for always making sure our WhatsApp is nice and organized, especially with those drop-in lists. So his question is, if I find myself in a solo block, do I opt for blocking the straight or the cross? We did talk about it a little bit in general, but we're going to go over the question again.
Okay, so I think for you gamers out there, I'm gonna make a reference to gaming. Actually, I'm also gonna ask you, Jess, what do you think makes a good team when you're playing Valorant?
Communication.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, good. We're on the same wavelength. Yeah. Why is that?
So I can't even. First of all, I just want to point out that when Mark plays Valorant, he ADSs when he shoots. Okay, so
Why do you have to tell people that? I don't even know half the people know what ADSs is.
The people
what
that know
ADSing is.
will know. But I found that out when I first met him, and I was like, "You ADS when you shoot in Valorant?" And he was like, "Yeah."
I'm a chronic ADSer.
I was like, "Ugh, really?"
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about it like relative to Valorant, but communication is very important, because where the block is should also determine where the defense is in the back.
Yeah, okay. So when you are blocking, like solo blocking is the most common thing that happens in, I would say, like mid-level, intermediate, I would say. So then everybody else is kind of like covering the floor, which is fine. But I think you should always try to have at least two. So this is dependent on the hitter, your opponent, because sometimes there's a couple factors that can come into play, but usually they're gonna go cross. If the set is like inside a little bit, like setters are, not perfect, so the hit's going to most likely be a cross. So you're gonna block cross, and then what that means is you're not blocking all the way up against the pin. You're leaving a little bit of space on the line, so that you have more coverage on the cross. Now if you notice that they start to hit line, then your block can move closer to the pin, and you can start blocking the line. But that opens up the cross, and then that means you have to have more coverage around the block. So defense wise, if you're on the ground and you're not blocking, then you're covering around the block. If you were alone, I think it's important to communicate to your team what you're going to be blocking. I think that's literally the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like, ask your team, because like you can ask your team, like, oh, is this guy gonna hit cross or is he gonna hit line? Like, what's more likely? And then if they say block cross, then block cross, and then everybody knows that to prepare for the line.
Yeah, you're supposed to set up your defense around the block. I don't really have much to add on to that. Mark is completely correct. It's the most important thing about which to like whether to block, cross, or line is just to communicate with your team, and also recognizing like what the hitter is able to do. If you go to a drop in like blind and you have no clue who you're playing against, I think your best option is to block cross. But if you have someone on your team who's really good at power or is really good at playing, like, is able to pass, then you could leave cross open and let them dig it. Um, it kind of it's very dependent. It's very situational. When I play setter, I always tell the blockers to leave line because like line shots are usually, in my opinion, pretty easy to pop up. Um, and then like when I play power, before I used to tell them to leave cross. Now I actually tell them to block cross because I'd rather come up for a tip instead.
Yeah.
So it really depends. Like it's important to just communicate with your team and then chat about what you prefer, and what they prefer you to do. And also like you never know if the block is gonna be like a perfect block too, right? So it's just dependent on how well your team plays together and if your passers in the back are able to see through the block too. Like whenever I see a hole in the block, I go where the hole is. So
I trust the block. I always go around.
yeah, yeah. You can kind of see it midair sometimes when people go up to block. You can see a hole in the block, and if you see the ball in the hole, you're like, oh god, I gotta go cover it. So that's how I manage to get so many touches. Usually on a middle hit, because usually the block is not closed or complete, so I just go to where the hole is. Mind you, I can't dig them because I suck, but but I hope that
Yeah.
helps a little bit, Brandon. Yeah, if you're playing like good volleyball, you should have 3 blockers on a power or a middle. But speaking
Yeah.
of good volleyball, Mark is actually playing in a men's tournament this weekend.
Why do you gotta tell people?
Oh, not
that?
this weekend, next weekend. I'm so excited.
I got called up.
He got recruited. Are you excited?
I honestly like. I hate to say it, but I am kind of sick of tournaments.
Yeah. Why is that?
I don't know. It's just like so much uncertainty and so much expectation. Um, I don't know. There's a lot to say about tournaments
I think
that I can say.
you're at the point where you prefer to organize them instead of playing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm honestly right now I'm all about the like intermediate drop-ins, just kind of having fun with people.
Oh, yeah.
It's fine. Like yeah, I've even kind of started, well, this is a while back, but I kind of started getting back into badminton too, so
Oh yeah. Yeah.
um
I only
once-
go if sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say like I was also thinking about getting back into rock climbing too, so
Oh yeah. Yeah, honestly, if
sometime.
if people ever come up to me and Mark and they're like, "Hey, can you like why aren't you going to send in a team for this tournament or XYZ?" My honest answer is I don't play in tournaments unless people ask me no.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like totally down to like be, or like if you call me up, then I'd be down to like help. I think
It's just being a team captain and forming a team and then, taking responsibility and trying to be that person. It's a lot of work, I think.
I think it's also just like I'm so used to before I moved back to Toronto, like we were, the team that I played for was a part of a club at my university, and we practiced like every Wednesday. So we got used to like each other, playing with each other, and like what kind of sets or people prefer, and practicing, like actually doing practice together, and gaining that chemistry. And honestly, like I feel like that's one of the most important aspects of a team is to practice together, gain confidence in each other. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next question. This is from Howard. Howard actually has quite a few questions for us. His first question is asking about the best type of volleyball. I'm not too sure what he means by that. I'm not too sure if he's talking about like the best type of like if if it's like beach or grass or whatever,
No,
or
no,
if it's like,
he's talking about the like a ball.
oh, the ball.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think you know what I think.
So,
Okay, wait. Say it on three. Ready? One.
oh, actually, no,
two.
no, 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 because my favorite ball is actually not a Molten or a Mikasa.
What?
So Mark prefers the Mikasas over the Moltens.
We could have still said it.
Oh yeah.
Would have been a
Sorry.
good surprise at the same
Oh
time.
man, sorry, I ruined it. Should we start over? I'm joking.
Alright, go.
Actually no. Okay, you go. Do you want to tell us why you like the Mikasas more?
I think because when I hit it, like it feels like there's more weight to it. And it also teaches me good form, especially when I'm overhand passing. Because if the ball's doubled, if I double the ball, like it's obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ball is blue and yellow, and if that thing is spinning, you can tell.
It's very unforgiving.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just like the feel of it. I think there's more like padding
Yeah.
to it.
It feels better when you bump it up too.
Yeah. Versus a molten. Don't get me wrong. Moltens are still like Moltens and Mikasas are both very good volleyballs. I just feel like when I'm playing with a Molten, I'll touch the ball and it'll just go flying.
Yeah, it is lighter.
But it also it's lighter, and I think when it's when
It floats a
you
lot harder too.
float, yeah, when you float it, it goes whoop 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 whoop, whoop, and I just
You have
cannot
no
receive
clue.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with the Mikasas, it's a little bit forgiving in that sort of sense. Like it doesn't float as much. But
I think it just promotes better habits. The Molten, I feel like you can get away with a lot of stuff, like hitting it hard and stuff. It's like it goes flying because it's so light.
yeah,
So
I mean it's still like a good volleyball.
oh yeah, I don't mind it. I like it. You're gonna vomit. You know the green and white balls that like 14U plays with
Oh my god!
in the
dude.
OVA?
Aren't those? What are those Mikasas?
I think they're Mikasas. I'm not too sure.
They're not like smooth. They're like tacky.
They're tacky. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think they're actually a little heavier than the Mikasas.
I will say those are actually pretty nice.
I was doing, I think I was doing like setting hitting lines, and someone had one of those balls, and I set it, and I was like, whoa,
They
so
do feel
easy.
nice. Yeah, they do feel nice.
Yeah, they feel nice to set. They're very like, yeah, like they're tacky. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I really like them. But again, that's like a teenage, like under 18
but that's like a
competition ball.
What was I gonna say? It's still Mikasa.
It's still a Mikasa. It's a nice ball. I
So
think
you
it's
prefer
a.
Mikasas.
I do prefer Mikasas. Yeah, I like the blue and the yellow. It's
Same.
it's easier to play with in my opinion. Like Moltens are so unpredictable. It's like, again, I'm not that good. So if you float a Molten at me, like there is like a 90% chance I'm gonna shank the pass.
Same.
Yeah. His next question is favorite players in pro.
Yamamoto.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, that guy's flying across the court. I don't know how the heck.
Yeah.
Nishinoya.
Nope.
Dang it.
Is that your favorite player then?
Honestly, I don't really watch too much. Well, okay, I watch pro volleyball. Like I watch in VNLs like quite often, but like especially like last year or last season. But I don't really watch. Like I'm not like a religious player, like a religious pro volleyball watcher.
Do you think Yamamoto is better than Eric Shoji from Team USA?
Ooh,
That's a very hard question because they're both really good libs. Mark is like deer in headlights right now.
my brain.
We can put a pin in it. My favorite player is actually the setter for Team USA.
What's his name?
His name is Micah Christensen. He's a very good setter. Or you know what?
Does he still play?
I think he's still on Team USA. I think
Oh,
a lot of
okay.
them like sustained injuries or something because I don't really see them on VNL. but I really like him because he's a really good setter. And that 19-year-old Semyon Nikolov,
He's crazy.
he's
Is he
crazy.
19 now?
I think he's
Oh, he
19
played when
now.
he was 17.
He started playing on Team Bulgaria when he was 17.
That's very cool.
It's very cool. He's a really good setter. I think I watched a video on some guy who was commenting on his like setting style. But I think he said like the reason why he's so good is because his court vision is like beyond like what a setter should be at. Like he's like way better than.
These kids, man, what are they eating?
Yeah, he's a really good setter. I really like him. He does some nasty stuff.
Yeah, yeah, very cool.
Okay, back to your lib question.
My lib question?
Yeah, who is better in your opinion?
I think that I have to say Yamamoto because he, I think, is just really, really quick. I think, what's his name? Shoji? He probably has the benefit of like really tall blockers.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, Team Japan is pretty tall, but if you have like massive blockers in the front,
Yeah,
like, you
that's
have
true.
less to cover. Whereas Yamamoto, you have no choice but to be super
Yeah.
fast and cover everything.
I think he
So
won.
feel like he has to.
He won best lib for VNL one year.
He did.
He's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Oh, ho, 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 ho. These two questions kind of go hand in hand, but for newer volleyball players, what are the top 3 things they should work on?
Do you want me to go first?
Yes.
Top 3 things they should work on. Okay,
Yes.
1. Passing. Passing. That's the first one. Second one, passing. The third one, passing.
It's like, what are your top 3 favorite players? Me, myself, and I.
Yeah. Okay. Passing should be number 1. Communication should be number 2. And I think 3 is being a good sport.
That is so wholesome.
No, it's true. Like, if you, okay, 1 is, okay, passing. Like, pretty much like any basic technique, really. Like, you should be learning how to basically, you should learn how to play the game at its most basic level. So if you learn how to pass a ball, you've pretty much learned how to play the game. Communication is another really important one. And I think that it goes kind of unnoticed because I think when I notice when teams stop talking to each other on the court, that's when things break down, and that's when teams start losing. Because now there's no information moving between your teammates, and you're not trying to fix anything, and so you pretty much end up just repeating the mistakes over and over and over. And then the last thing is chemistry. Something that I've noticed, and I think that a lot of people who have done a few tournaments over the year, over the past few years, who have just started getting into more competitive settings like that, is chemistry. Like, if somebody messes up a point, the worst thing that you can do is get pissed at them, because that's just gonna make it worse. They're a part of the team. This is a team sport. Do your best to encourage them, uplift them, tell them, it's just one point, just move on, try your best, because there's nothing you can really do in that moment other than just, maybe move people around, or talk about like what you can do in that moment. But if somebody is at their limits for playing a game, or if they're having a bad day, then don't get mad at them, or like get mad in general. I think it's the worst thing that you can do. Just tell them you can do better. You got the next point. We got more points to get through, so try your best. I think those are the top 3 things, in my opinion. Very wholesome, but very true, I believe.
I don't know if I really agree, to be honest. I'm kind of like on the same page, but also like I think there's other things that you should work on.
Like what?
Um, my back is hurting. I'm not sitting up straight. Someone needs to teach me how to do like proper ergonomics. Not ergonomics. Is it called ergonomics?
Proper
Proper
ergonomics.
posture. Posture. Why am I coming up with these?
Ergonomics has, yeah, okay.
Anyways, yeah, I think passing is really important. I think everyone should learn how to pass before they even learn how to hit or do anything else, to be honest. Because like what's the point of even trying to hit when you can't even pass the ball properly to get the set? I say it all the time. Everyone is so obsessed with hitting and looking cool, but no one thinks about what they need to do before that to get to that point. You know what I mean? Um,
Okay, so that's number one for you.
yes, yes. Very, very overlooked skill. A lot of people think passing is easy. It's not.
Okay, then what's number two?
I think understanding the game is really important. I see a lot of players who are so hyper fixated or they get tunnel vision and they just want to get the ball over and they don't try to make a play out of it. Mind you, I know that if you're a beginner, that's a little hard to like kind of shift into because you're not able to control the ball as well as you can. But I think having like a very basic understanding of the game, like you get 3 touches, the third touch should obviously be an attack. I think that would help a lot, especially with the skill disparity going on. A lot of like lower level players will just focus on getting the ball over, but it's like if you're just bumping a ball back and forth over a net, it's like how can that even be fun?
I think it could still be fun.
It could be fun. It's just a very hot take that I have. Like I think people should always try to make like the best out of the 3 touches and not just bump every second ball over or bump every first ball over, especially if it's a free ball. Like that's like ugh.
I think like not to say no, like I can agree with this. But I think as you get better, like you start to realize, oh, okay, maybe I should
Yeah.
use 3 touches.
I think it'll come with time, but my like I don't like it when I see players who obviously have figured out how to pass and obviously are technically at a decently high level, but then they don't understand how to play a volleyball system or a volleyball formation. You know, there's a lot of aspects that go into the sport, and unfortunately, learning positions is one of them, right? So it's more like put the work in to try and learn like 5-1. Put the work in. Don't just play middle set and then bounce balls on people and think like you're the best player in the world. You know what I mean? This I might be projecting because this was something that I came across a lot when playing drop-ins when I first started playing volleyball. Um, yeah, and I think you're right with the communication. I think it's important to communicate with your team. I think being a good sport is also important. Not every high ball is your ball to hit.
So what's your third?
Communication.
Oh, okay.
Communication, yeah, and don't be selfish. If like you're at a drop-in and you're with your setter and you're like, "Yo, set me a quick." Doesn't work out, and then you're like, "Yo, give me a meter," and it's like, "No, it doesn't work out." You hit it into the net. Then it's like, "Oh, give me a 32." It's like, how about you let the setter set someone else? Right? Everyone is paying to be here. Maybe next time. This is what you did. I really enjoyed that. I really like that you did this when you came up to me today. You were like, "Can you set the power?" Because she didn't really hit that much, and I really appreciate that because not a lot of
You're talking
people
about today.
today.
Oh,
Yeah, a lot of people won't really look out for other people and say, "Hey, this person hasn't gotten a set in a while. Could you try setting them?" Right? That's something I think a lot of people should do is have some humility or have some consideration for other people. Mind you, if you're in a competition or a tournament, it's a little different. You want to set whoever's going to get you the point. But if you're in a drop-in, it's like make sure everyone has fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Next one.
So I just went over volleyball systems, but he's also asking if 6-2 or 5-1 is not like better, but he's asking about the benefits and disadvantages of both.
I noticed that like higher volleyball or higher level volleyball will have they'll use 5-1 just because there's one person who's a dedicated setter. When I was in high school and I was playing, it was a lot of 6-2. Which is crazy because like when I came out of high school and I started playing in drop-ins, like the ones in Toronto community centers, like back when I lived in Toronto, Um, in those drop-ins, I started playing. We were playing a lot of 6-2 because we had two setters. Um, a lot of the times there's I think there was this was before the like big volleyball boom that's been happening. Um, we would play 6-2, or 4-2.
Hmm.
I would say 6-2 because you have three hitters in the front, at all times, and I think it gives a chance for the setter to also be able to attack as well.
Hmm.
So they're not just stuck playing, setter the whole time.
Hmm.
Um, but I think when you want to, I think nowadays because there's not a lot of setters out there, they kind of like are forced to the position. Everybody wants to hit, but nobody wants to set. Which is, I mean, it's fine. Like,
Is it?
I think,
Is it?
eh,
Is it really
okay.
fine? Hmm.
So I think 6-2 is good because you always have three hitters in the front. It's basically like a back row setter. So when the setter rotates to the front, they become a hitter, and then the setter that was in the front that was hitting becomes the new back row setter. Once they get the serve, so you always have three attackers in the front, which is good because you have as many options as you can, for the attack. Whereas 5-1, now you have a setter that comes up to the front line, and I think this is good if you have two reliable hitters in the front, and then a right side who can hit um, a back row hit on the right side. Um, Now I think in like intermediate, there's not a lot of setters who necessarily have that ability to like set back row. I think there's also like that missing communication between your team, that like the setter should have the responsibility to tell, um or to communicate with their options, like telling like power middle and your right side, or your back row right side, like what kind of set to expect. um yeah, I think 6-2, honestly, like, I'm surprised that people don't play 6-2 nowadays. I honestly, I don't know, I like playing 6-2, but I guess 5-1 is the way now.
I have this menacing smile on my face.
Why?
I think okay. From my point of view, okay. Um, I said this before. I'm gonna say it again. If your setter doesn't know how to backset, playing 6-2 and 5-1 is useless.
Okay, this is regardless of if your setter knows how to do. Let's say this setter,
If it's just
you either
like,
have one setter or two setters. If you had two setters, what are you running? 6-2 or 5-1?
depends on if the setters can hit. In my
They can
case,
hit. They're like the best player you've ever
what are
seen.
you talking about? I think
Because we're focusing solely on the system, not on the players.
I'm like
This is a team sport,
I'm
not an
so
individual sport.
um personally, I prefer 5-1. The reason for that is because if you're playing 6-2, you have two setters. Um, there can be miscommunication about who gets second ball. Depending on where the pass is, there can be miscommunication about who gets second ball.
It's the back row setter always gets the ball though.
Again, it depends because if I'm in the front row and I see that the back row setter is not going to go get that ball, I'm going to go run after it.
It's the setter's responsibility, the back row setter,
To
to
call help.
let people know.
I also think that I think 5-1 is just a lot easier to play. 6-2 is I think 6-2 relies on the pass being like nice and high and consistent a lot more than 5-1. Again, it's just my point of view. Like if I'm like if it's my preference, I always pick 5-1. But if I'm in the front row and I'm watching the set come up to me in the right side, I'm like, oh my god, I want to get it because I'm already in the spot where it's like I should just set it at that point. Do you know what I mean? Mark is scratching his head.
I think that in the point of like getting a good pass, I think it's equal in both.
Mm-mm.
Because if you're in the back row in both 5-1 and 6-2, the three positions that you're coming back to the front to set, like on the offensive, one is okay because you're already pushed up, so you have like a couple steps in your like setter position. If you're in six, it's the same thing. You
I
kind
think
of
it
just
just depends on
push
the
up a
team.
little bit. If you are in five, that's probably the furthest you have to run.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't really know like too much about which volleyball system is better. To me, it's dependent on the team.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, this is like stuff that you're thinking about when you have been working with the same team like over and
Yeah.
over. Also, this is dependent on if you have two setters.
Yeah.
The setters are a scarcity. That's my opinion. What are the disadvantages for each? I don't think
Um,
we've talked about that.
Not really. I think for 6-2, the disadvantage is all your hitters are front row. I think 6-2
That's a
probably.
disadvantage.
Yeah, I love setting C-ball.
I don't think that's a
A
disadvantage.
disadvantage for me because I don't get to practice my back rows. I think 6-2 obviously uses more front row hitters, not so much back row hitters. 5-1 obviously probably utilizes back row a little bit more. I wish we could call up Jimmy right now, but it's 3 a.m. and I think Jimmy can probably give us some really good insight onto like these two systems and which one is like better in which way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe next time. Someone put a pin in this.
All right. Yeah, Jimmy's gonna get a rude awakening at 3 a.m. There's no way. Okay. Yeah, I think in terms of like disadvantages, I think it just depends on the team and like depends on who you're up against. I think 5-2 is I mean,
5-2.
sorry, 5-2. 6-2 is I like 6-2. I personally like 6-2. Um I there's a lot of switching going on in 5-1.
Very
I'm
rare you'll ever have
I'll-
two setters on a team though.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Anyways, next question. Would you like to move on?
We can move on. Yes.
Okay, Kobe 6 alternatives. What does the Kobe 6 look like?
I can show you here. They're not bad. So
I think what I'm gonna do while you're doing that is to move on to the next one, and then we'll come back to that.
okay.
Thoughts on Way of Wades? What do we think about the Way of Wades? The
So
wows.
I said this to someone in the community because we were having a chat about volleyball shoes, and they were asking me about what I think about the Way of Wades. I said, if I see someone wearing Way of Wades, like especially the tens, and they're wearing overkill shorts, there is like maybe a 75% chance they are an ego hitter.
Okay, why are the Way of Wades such a popular choice?
It's a clout shoe, in my opinion. I also okay. They're
A lot
also
of people are gonna be mad at you right now.
I know a lot of people are gonna be mad. I've said this like maybe 6 or 7 times. This is my honest opinion about it. It's a nice shoe. It does what it's supposed to do. The cushioning is actually quite nice, and I've heard it's a really light, like versatile shoe. Because overall, it's just a really good court shoe. I think that for the price point, especially the high tops are like $360 plus tax or something on the website.
That's crazy.
I think for $360, it's like it should be an investment. Like that shoe should last you like way longer than any like standard volleyball shoe that you buy off the shelf.
Okay, here's something to relate it to. $300 can put a whole team through a tournament.
That's true.
What's more worth it?
That is true. $360 can put a whole team through a tournament. I think for the price point, it's like, is it really worth? Like to me, it's like our Mikasas were what $220. I think that's with tax.
Was it?
It was with
I thought
tax.
it was less.
No, it was 220. It was like 200 flat, and then with tax, it's like 220 or something like that.
Oh, damn. It was an expensive shoe, I will say.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm pretty cheap though. Like
yeah.
the last shoes that I had before that were Asics, but I used those more for badminton because the sole is a lot thinner and I can feel the floor a little bit better, and my side to side is.
Yeah.
But you know, in volleyball
Like-
you're jumping, so I felt like I was jumping on clouds with the new shoes.
I would say by all means, like if you have the money, like buy it because it is a nice shoe. Do I think it's worth spending another like $120 $140 on top of what I already spent on my Mikasa's, or not Mikasa's, sorry, Mizuno's. I don't think so. Um, I just think they're a little overhyped in my opinion. Again, very unpopular opinion because a lot of people like the shoe. I don't think it's an ugly shoe. I'm not saying it's like a terrible shoe. I just think it's extremely expensive. It's kind of like, I don't know if anyone's gonna understand this, but or get this reference or this joke, but Kylie Jenner released a natural brush set. Okay, it was like a 20-piece brush set for like $320 or something like that.
Makeup in general is just expensive, isn't it?
No, she she made it so expensive, but when they received it in the mail, the packaging was cheap, the brushes sucked, and it was basically she slapped her name on the brushes, and a bunch of people bought it because a bunch of people are fans of Kylie Jenner.
That's
And
clout, right?
yeah, like that's what I compare it to. Mind you, again, the shoes are much higher quality, so I'm
I,
indifferent personally. Like I would never buy them, but usually the people that I've seen wear them, like they kind of like some of them just wear them to look cool.
well, what's like so bad about wearing nice looking shoes?
Nothing. If it boosts, if it makes you feel like, you're a good volleyball player, or if you feel like these shoes are really helping you perform better, like by all means buy them. I just think that like wearing them around and telling people, yeah, you should buy these shoes. Like some people, like obviously, like I don't make that much money. I'm not gonna go out of my way to drop $400 almost on a pair of volleyball shoes when it's like I could spend half that amount for a pair of shoes that, in my opinion, probably do the same thing. Because I'm not that good of a player, so I have no benefit to be dropping all this money on gear that is like I can replace with much cheaper gear, but still like have the quality out of it.
I feel like 4 months ago you were so about them.
Yeah, my opinion has changed. I
Why
really
is
liked
that?
them back in the day. I don't know. I think now, like before, especially when I was younger too, I was really worried about the way I looked. I was very self conscious about like my appearance and stuff. So before, I was very about like buying whatever was in season or whatever was trending at the time. Um,
In season, you make them sound like fruits.
this is a little bit of jest lore for you, but in my past, like I was very obsessed with the way I looked. Now it's kind of just like maybe I just don't care as much because I'm much older. But for me, I'm more about like practicality and being like efficient or being like smart with my money. Do you know what I mean?
Character development.
It's character development. Again, not a bad shoe. Like if you really like the way they look and you want a high quality volleyball shoe and you're committing to like volleyball as a sport, like by all means buy it. But
They do look nice.
they look
Like
nice. They're
they're
not
really
bad
nice shoes.
shoes. Like they're probably like again like one of the best shoes on the market. I've said this like probably 10 times, but to me there's just this like there's this stigma surrounding the shoe where a lot of people who buy them just buy them to look cool and they don't have like the skills to back up like what the shoe comes with, if that makes sense.
I think you should wear whatever the heck you want to wear. If if you want to wear way of wades,
If you want to wear them, like go
wear
ahead and
them.
wear them. I'm just saying that like the community almost has like developed the stigma around the shoe.
I think there is like
Mhm.
something to say about those
Yeah.
shoes, but I don't know. I feel like it's up for interpretation on like those shoes specifically. I think there's definitely like a range of shoes that you can buy, and I think wave weights um are good at like a certain, like, again, I've never worn them, but I'm very particular with my shoes. So I do my research, and um I remember we were in the um the shop buying these new shoes, the Mizuno's,
Mhm.
and I was like doing a full on approach and like moving side to side to see if these shoes were a good fit, because I did try the men's,
Mhm.
and my feet are kind of narrow. So actually, I have the women's ones because they just fit my feet better. They feel like a sock.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Again,
I
depends
like
on your
them.
foot shape, depends on what you want to, have the shoe do for you. If you're, a setter, you don't really need like the explosiveness that the weights usually give you. But that's kind of my take on it. Everyone has their own opinion on it, but I've said this like maybe 10 or 20 times about how I feel about those shoes. The Kobe's, I don't know if you heard the backstory behind this, but um,
What about it?
I might be projecting, but I don't like the Kobe's not because of the actual shoe. It's just because like I'm trying to think of the nicest way to say this or the best way to say this. I'm projecting a little bit with those shoes. That's all I'm gonna say.
You're projecting, but we don't even know what you're projecting about.
I'm
I'm confused.
I can't. I'm trying to
Like
like think of the best way to say this.
the audience and I are all staring at you right now, figuratively and actually in person.
Oh
Because we have
God.
no idea what you're talking
Can
about
we
right
cut the podcast and start from the beginning? I'm kidding. I just have a history with the shoe. That's all. I've never personally wore them, but
now. So you dislike them
yeah, not because of the actual shoe.
because
Just
you have history with the shoe.
yeah. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
So we hate the shoe.
No, I don't hate the shoe. The Kobe's are actually also a very good shoe, a very good court shoe in my opinion.
So what are the alternatives?
So that being said, Kobe's are extremely expensive just because of the resale value on them. I think they
I'm sure.
resell. I think the green ones, like the neon green ones, the Grinch ones, sell for I think 600 plus on StockX right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So when I saw Fiends wear like one of the colorways, I was like, oh, because you know he probably dropped a lot on those pair of shoes. Unless they're reps. If they're reps,
Yeah.
then live your life. If you can't afford Kobe's, then there's other alternatives. A lot of people say the LeBrons are really good. The LeBron 20s,
I think in general, like a lot of
very good basketball shoes. Yeah, very good basketball shoe. Very
noticed-
good court shoe.
I noticed that like there's some basketball shoes that just seem like very heavy.
Yeah. The LeBrons are not bad. Some people say the Sabrina ones was a good like alternative to the Kobe's. I have a pair of the Sabrinas. Not my favorite shoe. It's a little heavy for my liking, but the grip on it's really nice. It kind of again, it just depends on what you're looking for. Like I think basketball shoes usually are generally a little bit more heavier than volleyball shoes. But there are some volleyball shoes out there that are also good for either or. So it kind of just depends on what you want the shoe to do for you. I think at the level that we play at, it honestly like it's negligible.
I notice a good like when I switched from my Asics
Mhm.
to the Mizunos,
Mm-hmm.
like I think coming from a badminton background, footwork is probably the most important aspect of the game. If you have poor footwork, you have poor balance. If you have poor balance, you're not gonna hit the birdie in time. And I think it's the same thing in volleyball. I think when I switched over to the Mizunos, I noticed that my footwork got a lot better. I was moving around the court a lot easier. I felt like I can honestly like jump a little bit higher with these shoes too. So like the rebound is really good. So I think that it matters a lot to me. I think to other people it might not matter that much. I think they're gonna look for different things. So yeah, I think you're, like,
Very
completely
to me
right.
it's just it's like a negligible difference, I think. That being said, like I've tried on the Sabrinas. I think they're heavy. They're not my cup of tea compared to my Mizunos. But again, like the best way for a player to find the best shoe for them is just to go and try them on, because
Yeah.
everyone has different shaped feet. Everyone is a little different. So I think
Wait.
Hmm?
So you say it's negligible, but then you also prefer the Mikasas over your Sabrinas.
Yeah,
in
but
your
I would
background?
wear either or. I don't really see like a significant improvement to my
So
performance.
then why do you wear the Mikasa? Or sorry, the Mizunos?
I want it to match.
Oh. Oh,
I
okay.
think had you not bought them that day, I probably would have just gone home and like,
You would have been okay with wearing your other shoes.
yeah, I already have two pairs. I gave one away, but my Sabrina's like I would just worn those to the ground.
Oh.
Very, very negligible, but again, like it's different for everyone. Like again, the only thing I'm gonna say is if you want to go look for a volleyball shoe and you want to like really make sure you get the best shoe for you, the only thing you can really do is just try them on yourself.
Fair. Okay, that was a long segment.
That was yeah, the whole shoe discussion is crazy because everyone has their own opinions about each shoe because everyone again has different shape feet. Everyone has different joints that do not different joints, but like your joints are all a little different, if that makes sense. It's just everyone is unique
Your
in their own way.
bodies,
Yeah.
all of our bodies are just different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think what we could do is we can ask we could honestly make a whole like episode about it. Like if you want to comment what shoes you wear and like your I think this would really help some of the people who are looking for new shoes and stuff like that. Even myself, I think it'd be really interesting to see what people say about like certain shoes and I guess your opinions on the way of Wades. Like give us your opinions. Let us know what you wear. But let us know what you prefer and what you look for.
Yeah, for sure. Um, someone else is asking about who made our logo.
That's crazy. Who is it?
I wonder who's asking. Not gonna name drop him, but he is just a close friend of mine. He was very, very kind to help us with the Tsunami rebrand. He's the big brain, big brain. He calls Mark Mr. Volleyball.
Yes. Apparently I'm Mr. Volleyball.
But very lovely guy, just a close friend of mine that designed our logo, came out with our whole brand identity and stuff. So we really owe a lot of it, a lot of the praise to him. You know who you are.
Yeah. He always kind of gives us like I want to say yeah, like he just gives us so much info in terms of like design, like proper design, like stuff that I would not even think about. Mostly because I don't like it's not my field. I studied psychology. I he did say that when I made the website, he said that it was good in terms of like a consumer 'cause,
Very practical.
it
Yeah.
very practical because that's all I know about. Like okay, I'm thinking I know I could like put my brain into another person's brain and kind of think okay, like if I'm going into this as somebody who wants to just like get to a volleyball drop in and sign up, like how are they gonna
Yeah.
get there? Like that's what I care about.
Mm-hmm.
My brain cannot do like visual art. I'm a music person,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Thank you. You know who you are. There's also a question on our YouTube video, like from our last podcast, also from Chris. He was asking about our biggest pet peeves when it comes to volleyball. I wish I had I don't know if you've seen those TikToks with that guy with the whiteboard and he just rips off like sticky notes that cover like his top 5.
oh this guy yeah
Yeah.
I know who you're talking
So
about. Did you wait? Sorry, were you saying biggest pet peeve, or
Yeah.
is there like a top 5 that
we don't have enough time for you to go through your top 5, I fear. So just your
so number
biggest.
1. You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Biggest pet peeve. Oh, I think there's a few. Do you have yours already? Okay, you go first because I need to think about this.
You
'Cause
know,
it's hard for me to get pissed off or like annoyed.
You know when you go to a drop-in, okay,
Uh-huh.
and your team serves the ball, goes into the net, point goes to the other team. The other team serves the ball, it goes out. Ball goes back to you. Next player serves the ball, goes out. And this happens for maybe like 10 points straight. I think if each team lost 5 consecutive serves to just it hitting the net or going out, I'd probably take my shoes off, pack up, and go home.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
happened. It's pissed me off, honestly. And then like only for me to go and serve it into the net, and I'm like, I'm part of the problem.
Part of the problem. Uh-huh. That is, I guess that does get kind of redundant and annoying.
That's a
I
good
can
one.
see that.
I have another one. When you're in a drop-in, it's like, yeah, we all want to have fun, but at the same time, like, call your doubles, call your net touches. If you're crossing line, call it out. Don't be so like, no, I didn't do this, or no, I didn't do that, or don't get into an argument over whether a ball is in or out. It's a drop-in. It's like it's
That's
not
fair.
worth it. If it's a tournament, I understand. Usually, what tournaments will do is you'll just ask for a reserve, but in a drop-in, it's like it's just a drop-in. Like, you're not gonna win anything, Just relax, right? But it's important to be honest with yourself. Like, if you grab the net or touch the net, like, be honest with yourself. If you touch the ball and it went out, be honest. Like, this is a really bad habit because in tournaments it really like bites me in the bum. Whenever I double a ball, like you'll know.
She'll just stop playing.
You'll see me either make like a really really cringe face, or you'll hear me scream,
Or she'll do the peace sign.
or
And
I'll do
just
the peace
stand
sign,
there.
and then you'll just know that I doubled the ball. It's a really really bad habit of mine because sometimes like it feels like I doubled it, but I didn't, and then it's just like I'm not happy with that set, so I'm just gonna stand here and sulk until the point is over.
Yeah. Okay, I think I have two. You've jogged my memory. I think I'm gonna do the. This just is because like I'm an organizer. Um, so like in between games, I think this is more like when it comes to like a tournament. If you just finished a game, and I guess you didn't get your like hits in, they're like, oh, just one set, just one set. Oh my goodness, it's like, come on, guys, we have another game to play, please. Um, out of respect, I think there's a lot of like, or what do you call it, like unwritten rules or norms in the volleyball world that haven't been like carried on from like the pre volleyball boom that is kind of like pet peeves of mine. Um, but again, like there's some these people don't really know that, but I think one of them is just like if there's another game ahead of the one that you just played, just go straight into the next game. You'll get a chance to hit again. Come on, that's my first one.
Yeah.
The second one I think is, um, like I can kind of understand it, but at the same time, like at any level that you play, you can see when people are trying. When I see someone who isn't willing to try, like I can tell when they're trying their hardest. Um, I think it's great when they try their hardest, even if they like don't get the point or don't get the ball up. Like I can see that you're trying, so it's appreciated. When I see someone drop the ball and just like not even put in effort to like try to pick it up, oh, it really just drives me up the wall. Cause come on, like we're supposed to be a team, so let's try as a team. But if you're not trying, then it just now feels like you don't want to be a part of this team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
And you don't see this like collective goal that we have. It's missing that like teamwork aspect of an individual that is supposed to be providing.
Mark is talking about
To
me
this
when I let
team,
balls
so-
drop in front of me.
Okay, well, I mean, like, no. Sometimes it happens when you're doing that. You know the Spider-Man meme where they're like both pointing to each other.
Oh, I love the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, that it's like that will happen.
We need to
That's
stop being
fine.
next to each other in a rotation.
Oh yes, yeah. The amount of times that we've done this. Like again, like it's fine if it's like a mistake like that. It's just again, it's communication. But if repeatedly like you're kind of being I don't wanna say lazy, but-
it's not being lazy. I get what you mean. I've played with people who won't hit a set unless it's like a perfect set.
oh that's
That's a good one. You know, like they'll look at the set, and if it's not
They're
a good
picky.
set, they won't even approach. They'll just let it fall on the ground.
That's
I've seen that before.
Really, that's so BM.
It's very BM. It's very BM not to hit a set or even try to hit a set over. You don't see it as much these
No.
days. That was the thing that I saw in my humble beginnings.
Yeah, I think the volleyball community as a whole in Toronto right now is slowly evolving, getting better as a collective, which is really nice to see because now I notice, there's more comp tournaments, there's more high intermediate tournaments, and
Mhm.
people are starting to get better and better and better. So, and then on top of that, there's also some more newcomers,
Yeah.
even recently
There's
coming
everything
into the
for
sport.
everyone. I think there's a little bit of everything now, which is nice. I do want to talk about this really quickly because we did say in the last podcast we would. So, you know how you say like there are people in the volleyball community, you're like watching them get better and stuff. And there was obviously newcomers as well. How do you feel about the skill discrepancy in intermediate drop-ins right now?
Oh, what are you talking about?
So, this is something I've seen sometimes in our drop-ins that I'm kind of like actively trying to figure out a solution for. So our intermediate drop-ins right now are open to pretty much anyone who wants to join. We just ask that you know how to play 5-1 or some form of volleyball, like some kind of volleyball rotation. That being said, I find that there is a skill disparity sometimes in intermediate. So this has been a problem for a very long time. It's not just something that's happening in our community. I wouldn't even say it's that bad in our community. I would say our intermediate is pretty like it's well rounded. You know, like there's good players, but there's also players that are still learning. And overall, like our drop-ins are still very fun. But this has been an issue that I've seen in drop-ins outside of Tsunami.
Okay, why do you think it's an issue?
Intermediate is so broad. It's like, well, what defines an intermediate player? You know,
What defines a rec player?
me.
Same.
Like I think the way that certain organizations have defined certain players, sometimes it can be very vague. Like an intermediate player is usually defined as someone who can bump, set, and attack, and understand 5-1. But it's like if you're attacking, it's like how fast is the ball going, right? If you can set it, can you set it high? Do you know how to set more than one person? Like, do you know how to set middle and power? You know what I mean?
So you're saying it's very objective.
It's very objective and subjective. I think it's objective in the fact that if someone is just like, okay, I can bump the ball, then it's like, okay, I'm good enough for intermediate. But it's like, can you bump the ball accurately? Can you bump it nice and high to the setter? Do you know what I mean?
Or can you do it consistently?
Or consistently. Like if I were to down ball you 10 balls, how many are you gonna bump up and to the target? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the skill discrepancy issue is a, I would say it's a pretty big kind of like factor right now that's happening, or at least that I see in volleyball drop-ins.
So why is it a problem?
It's a problem because there are players who, in my eyes, I see them as actual intermediate players, and they will come to these intermediate drop-ins. Again, not ours, because I don't really see any problem with our drop-ins at the moment, but more so like outside our community. And I see these players come, and they'll play the game, but they're also players that are learning, but they think that they're intermediate, and they'll go to these drop-ins and they can't keep up. And there are people who are trusted to be hosts for these drop-ins, that are responsible for either passing or failing players. And it's like, what if the host isn't even that good? What do you do then?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is something to say about like being a host of a certain like a level of a run, and
Yeah.
I think it becomes an issue when um okay, first of all, I'll say this, like it's not really like there's no really like a standardized way
Nope.
to I guess rate an individual.
Yeah. Also,
I think that, sorry, you wanted to say something?
no. I also want you to consider people that can bounce a ball really hard but cannot pass. It's like, what
Okay.
kind of player are they then?
Okay. Um. Okay. This is like it's really hard. I think because number one, it's not standardized. Like it's really a really hard thing to standardize. But I think that at the bare minimum, you should be able to pass consistently. Like if you can pass a free ball, um, to to its target, um, like a 2 to 3.
What does that mean, a 2 to a 3?
If your pass is rated 2, then your setter can set at least 2 options. If it's a 3, you can set all 3 options. If it's a 1, then you can only set 1 option. If it's a 0, then the ball's not going to the setter. Yeah. So if I don't know, like a two or yeah, like a free ball. If you can pass at least like a two, then that's I think that's I think that's pretty intermediate.
Mhm.
If you have trouble passing a free ball, I think that's a concern.
Mhm.
Because at that point it's not even fun because the ball's not going where it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
As like an intermediate player. Um, and I think that's where the game really starts.
Mhm.
If you can't pass up a ball to the front line, then you are not really gonna get um, good hits up in the front, most likely, unless your setter is a god. Um, Jess is putting up her.
Me. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Are you saying you double the ball a lot?
No, I'm saying
Because you
that
put a
I'm
peace
a
sign.
nasty setter. I'm joking. I'm just inflating my own ego.
Okay. Anyways, uh, I think that if somebody could standardize, you know what I was saying? I was saying this in the car at one point. I said, why don't we create a rubric?
A rubric
And
for
you
volleyball
laugh.
is
But
crazy.
yo, you know what? Like, okay, we've figured out like consistent passing. We've figured out like consistent attacks or sets or 5-1. Okay, those are three or four different criterias. But I think within those four, there's a lot more that you can kind of
Yeah.
define.
Yeah.
And like honestly, if I were to go to like a like a I don't know, a website to find out like really minute details and created a rubric for it, I'm not gonna do it because I don't have the time for that. Or the energy. Yes, I'm lazy. Um, I think if you use that to like supplement, figuring out like where you're at in terms of a player, I think that could help.
Yeah.
Whether that's gonna happen and whether people have the time to do that, I don't think it's
I think there's a
um
long ways to go to
productive.
standardize like this whole skill issue across the board. I also I don't agree with hosts not being at the level of the drop in or not being almost better than the level of the drop in. Um, I will say there's a reason why we haven't come out with an advanced drop in yet. It's because we don't have a host.
Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
like I can do it. I don't honestly. I think I can. I'm just like I would need much more practice and play regularly. But nowadays, I just like
Yeah,
silly, goofy volleyball, so I'm
exactly.
doing that.
Like arguably, I wouldn't even like the way we screen our high intermediate right now. Is kind of like we're doing what we can to make sure that our skill like we're trying to prevent this whole skill discrepancy from happening. Um, but like I wouldn't even host high intermediate because I don't think I'm at that point yet. Do you know what I mean?
I think to backtrack a little bit, I think why it's a problem is because people go into these runs expecting a certain level of volleyball and then they don't get that level and then they go home pissed because they didn't get proper sets or there wasn't any passing. I think that mm, as somebody who's been playing volleyball for a while, I think that um, the because there's so many people coming into volleyball now that it's starting to shift our understanding of what like high level volleyball is, what competitive is, what advanced is, what intermediate is, what beginner is. And honestly, I'll say it, like not a lot of people want to be called rec, but I love rec.
I love rec
I
volleyball.
think
Middle set, W formation.
yeah, I think it's important to recognize that we all, I think me personally, I have, not to make it about myself, but I have a lot of things to work on. Some people may say I'm a good player, but I think that I'm an okay player. I can hang, but at the same time, I think I we should all recognize. I think that's what like makes a good athlete is that they're always trying to get better and do better in their sport and work on their craft.
Hmm.
So I mean, if you want to come into volleyball just having fun, that's perfectly fine. Um, but recognize what your limits are, and just I think when if you're going into a run and you're not like quite ready, I think it's worth recognizing that you might need to work on it a little bit more. And if you want to play at that level, perfectly fine, but do some work. I think
Go
that's
to
important.
clinics.
Yeah. Um. Honestly, like um, before the whole volleyball boom, I think volleyball is actually a little bit more aggressive in terms of like how good you are.
Yeah.
Like you needed to be good to be on a team.
Yeah.
And coaches would tell you like
Straight
not
up.
that you're like shit,
Yeah.
but like you need to do this. Like you're not gonna play on the front line because or the starting six because you can't pass.
Mhm.
And I think that's like fine. I think we could like I mean that's why we do clinics.
Mhm.
But and that's the whole reason why I wanted to start doing clinics within our community because I wanted to see everybody get better and everybody seemed like they recognize we all have something to work on. So I think it's the we have the community to blame on, um, but also we have our own expectations to blame, in both the people who have just started playing and the people who have been playing for a while.
Mhm.
It's just mixed expectations, really.
Yeah. That being said, I am open to hearing what other people have to say about how to fix this whole issue with the big skill discrepancy.
Or even like whether they think it's a problem
Yeah.
because it like drop-ins back then were a mix of people who like did not know how to play at all and people who were like crazy good,
Mhm.
and we still had fun.
Yeah.
So um
Yeah.
yeah,
I'd be
I
open
kind of
to.
almost feel like things would be better if we didn't even have this like this stratification of skills.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think it's just something that's in the air, and I hope someone comes up with a solution for it soon. But personally, I don't see any problem with it in our community. I remember we went to an advanced drop in once, and I showed up to this drop in, and I was like, I need to go home.
Why is that?
I just like the second I saw the people at this drop in, and first of all, I was the only girl at the drop in, so that also kind of got me a little shook. Like I was shaking in my boots. Thank goodness they asked me to set because if I was hitting on the net, first of all, the net was taller than co-ed. It was like between co-ed and men's, so I was already kind of crippled. Um, but it was just like I got there and I was like, I am not good enough for this drop in, and
You were able to hang.
I was hanging because I was setting. If I was passing and playing power, like the last game that we played, no,
I think we
no.
were fine. I think we were fine.
But I think that was like that's probably the last time I'll ever go to an advanced drop in. Like you wouldn't even catch me at high intermediate anymore.
Okay, last thing then. Um, this was I think mentioned. What do you think about people moving up to a higher skill level to as a means to get better? Because I think
Ooh,
it is a way to get
yeah.
better. But when do you think? Obviously, it's gonna be different from level to level.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
when do you think you are
So
ready to move up?
I think if you are okay, let's say that you are playing at a high rec drop in. Okay, I love high rec. First of all, high rec is probably my favorite level to play right now. I don't know why.
I'm honestly, I will say I'm a rec player most of the time.
I love high rec. There is just something about these drop ins. I don't know why. It's just so goofy. My favorite thing is just to mess with Mark at a high rec drop in.
A mess, yeah, that's a good
No,
d-
like my favorite
adjective.
thing is to mess with you at a high rec drop
Oh,
in.
to mess with
Yeah,
me,
I always
like
like giving
full
him like these impossible sets to hit. And then he'll like obviously like it's like no one is gonna hit it, and then I'll look at him and be like, "Why didn't you hit that?"
crazy.
um, sorry. Back to the point. I'm saying if okay, so let's say you're at a high rec drop in. If you're visibly not like bored, but it's kind of like you're just standing there and you're like, "Yeah, I know where the ball's gonna go," or like the ball comes to you and you're like, "Yeah, I can pass it," and you're kind of just like hanging around. You're probably ready to move up to the next level. I think if you're at a high rec drop in and you're a little bit nervous and you're a little bit on your knees and toes, like, oh my gosh, where's the ball gonna go? Or you're a little nervous that you can't pass something up or you can't receive a serve, you're probably not ready for or for intermediate. Um, and
What
that's
about
what I
going
meant.
from like intermediate to advanced?
That I think depends. It also depends on like what advanced quote unquote means, right? Because you never know. Usually, like I only ever see men play advanced now. I never see a lot of women play advanced.
I honestly like. I think this like third level of this intermediate, because like to me, I when I was running leagues up in Sudbury, I only ran recreational and competitive. Like if you wanted to play like higher level volleyball, then you would play competitive. But if you just want chill, silly, goofy volleyball with no expectations, just go to rec.
Yeah, I'll give you my point of view of it. Whenever I fill in and play high intermediate, I'm on my toes like all the time. I'm like, oh gosh, like I actually have to kind of lock in to keep up in this run. That to me means that I'm not ready to go to the next level, like high intermediate. Like whenever I play in high intermediate, I'm still like I have to like really actually like lock in to be able to keep up and to be able to, like, just yeah, to be able to keep up. So after leaving the run, if I reflect on like my performance and I'm like, you know what, like I could do better, or I could be a little bit more on my toes, or I could be a little bit smarter with my court vision and stuff like that, then it's like okay, I'm not ready for advanced. But if I'm in like a rec drop in, I love rec drop ins also. Oh my gosh, I love rec.
I've said that so many times.
But if I'm at a rec drop in, then I'm more there to one, make sure my team is having fun. Usually we know some people that come to the rec drop-ins too, but whenever I go, it's like I want my team to have fun, and that's what I'm more focused on than keeping up, because at the rec level, it's like I can keep up. So that means like I can probably go on to that next one. And same thing with high rec. Like high rec is the same thing. Like I usually try to make sure the team has fun, and if I'm able to make sure or control the ball to make sure that my team is able to get a hit or have fun with it, then I'm probably ready to move up to the next level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. What about you?
Like when you're ready to move up. I'll try to make this quick. Eh. Okay, yeah, I think if you stand out,
Yeah, if you stand out as a player, then
it's-
you're probably ready.
it's pretty obvious when you shouldn't be, or when you should be playing like higher level volleyball. I think um I think when like players are like bored, I think you can tell they want to be at a higher level. Um yeah, I think that's like pretty much it. I think if you're like playing with a team, again, like drop-ins, like you're either bringing a whole team or you're joining a bunch of random people, right? So I think it's kind of obvious, like watching from the sidelines, when somebody is not
Yeah.
playing at the
There's a really good
correct
example of
level.
this of someone that's been coming to our drop-ins. Again, not gonna call names or anything. He'll probably know who he is if he listens to
I
this
think I know who you're
podcast.
talking about.
He comes to our intermediate drop-ins, to play with his friends who are still kind of picking up the sport. You can just tell by the way he plays that he is not an intermediate player. He is ready to play high intermediate. Arguably,
love
I
it.
think he's advanced. I think he's pretty good.
I love it though. I love people who
Um,
come to play lower level volleyball, but
yeah.
not to like
Not to like
hit
poop on people or
hard,
anything
or
like that, but
I mean he does sometimes, and I know that he likes doing this, but at the same time, like most of the time he's setting,
yeah.
and he's setting his friends.
And he's trying to support his friends. Yeah.
I love that. I love seeing that, especially in a team sport like this. Like it creates a sense of like you're belonging to a team. It helps other players get better.
Yeah.
Because they're probably helping their teammates,
Mhm.
get better in the sport and stuff like that. I love that.
Yeah.
I used to like, I think that was like one of the other things, like one of the other reasons why I started doing this is because I was like trying to teach people how to play, people who are like coming to the sport,
Mhm.
like how to play.
We still do that too in the East End sometimes when we go to drop-ins in the East End. Sometimes we'll go to like a rec or a high rec drop-in, and we'll know some of the players because we've played with them a few times usually at that level, and we're always. I remember a group of players once came up to Mark and they were like, "Can you teach me how to hit?"
Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah. I remember that. I remember that. They to this day, whenever they see me, they call me sensei.
Yeah, but those players like we played with a few times, and it's basically the same environment. Like we try to support them and make sure that they're also learning. But that's what I think a lot of higher level players should do a little bit more is
I
support
think
the beginners a little more. Yeah.
I think I will say though, ask them if they want help, because I know in different in different like sport communities, um, it might come off as rude, um, because you're basically saying that you're better than them. So I always make it a point to be like, like, do you want help, or I'll let them ask me for help. Um, yeah, because I know in rock climbing, if you ask for help or if you give someone like un what do you call it, unsolicited advice, yeah, it comes off as like, I didn't want help. This
I
is
think it's
my
different for
problem.
volleyball. So far, everyone has been
I
quite
think for
receptive.
volleyball, it's mostly well received, but I think in any case, regardless, I think it's important to ask. But um, regardless, um, that being said,
Why did you shake your head like that?
okay, I think it's nice when I see people do that, because I think it brings the
Yeah.
community together.
Yeah. I asked him too. I said, "Hey, why don't you ever come to high intermediate?" And then because I was like, "You can probably hang in high intermediate." And he was like, "I like playing with my friends." And I'm like, "That's so wholesome."
Yeah, I think our community is pretty wholesome.
Yeah.
I think very, very good.
Yeah.
Tight knit.
Mhm.
Exactly what I've been looking for. Shed a tear.
Okay, so we're gonna end it here because we are kind of pushing the time a little bit. Thank you for everyone who reached out and sent us questions to answer on this podcast. I'm
Thank you for listening
praying,
and
hoping.
spending all this time with us.
I'm praying next week we will record this podcast a little earlier and hopefully have a guest. We haven't decided who yet, but we'll figure that out next time.
We're having a guest next week. Damn, that's
Hopefully,
crazy.
I'm in trouble. Anyways,
At least I didn't find this out on general. Like when
um,
we did that 72
oh
people.
my
Honestly, we're doing another
gosh,
72
we
people on
don't
this.
talk about that. That was impulsive of me. Um, but yeah, thank you for everyone that's been kind of sticking along and listening to every single episode each week. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you guys stick along with us and kind of watch this podcast grow just like the community.
I can't believe you guys want to keep on hearing us talk like this at 3 a.m. That's crazy.
um,
Go to sleep.
anyway, shameless plug. So this weekend we have a clinic. It is full, but it's a hitting clinic. Again, our good friend Jimmy, shout out to Vortex Volleyball, is
Thanks,
gonna be
Jeremy.
coaching the hitting clinic. I believe we're taking a break next week just because it's been a very busy month. So the week after,
We probably also want to give Jimmy a break.
we also want to give Jimmy a break. The man is organizing like tournaments and clinics left and right.
Wait, he's organizing tournaments?
Yes, he is. Follow them on Instagram, Vortex Volleyball, if you want to have a look at what Jimmy is up to. Um,
Nice.
and I know some of you guys were wondering about when our next co-ed tournament is. Mark, did you wanna tease that a little bit?
Yeah, so we got something for February. We got something for March. We don't have anything for April. So watch out for a co-ed intermediate tournament. I'm thinking about doing a comp tournament alongside that, but like with a couple divisions, but the logistics of that I still have to figure out. We got a lot of things going on right now, so we're gonna try to figure out as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so watch out for April. And then we got something in May. That's as far as we got. We're probably gonna do some more stuff, but it's all in the
Yeah.
works. We'll keep you guys updated on the Instagram. And if you're in our WhatsApp, you'll probably see announcements and stuff like that. So yeah,
All right, everyone.
thank you guys again.
Yeah, thanks so much. See you guys later.
If you guys are listening to this on tomorrow, today, I guess it's today on
Today,
Friday.
yeah.
Um, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Or tonight because it's Friday. for those that are coming to our low intermediate.
Time is confusing.
Yes, time is confusing. Okay, goodbye everyone.
Goodbye.